Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Uzma Jafri. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 23rd of December. India's PM Modi holds COVID-19 review meeting amid Omicron spread. Pakistan's Opposition Jamaat-e-Islami protests in solidarity with the anti-CPEC Baloch movement. And US authorizes some transactions with Taliban to keep aid flowing to Afghanistan. And now for all the details. At least one person was killed and 5 others injured after a blast rocked a court in Ludhiana city of India's northern Punjab state on Thursday. Punjab's Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi said the blast was carried out by some anti-national elements as the assembly elections were near. He urged the people to stay on alert.
At least one person was killed and 5 others injured in a blast inside a court complex in Ludhiana city in India's northern Punjab state on Thursday afternoon. The blast took place on the second floor of the building, while the Ludhiana District Court was crowded and functioning. A bomb disposal squad and a forensic team were immediately rushed to the spot to take stock of the situation. Punjab's Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi said that the blast was carried to disrupt law and order in the state ahead of assembly polls early next year, as he urged people to stay on alert.
कॉमन बाथरूम है नाल रिकॉर्ड रूम हैगा जेड़ा पब्लिक वास्ते है उत्थे लास्ट टाइम आवाज़ आई सानू ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਸੀन ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਸਿਕਿਉਰ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਔਰ ਸਾਰੀ ਵੈਰੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਇਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਿਹਦੀ ਡੈਥ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਇਹ 2 ਬੰਦੇ ਇੰਜਰਡ ਹੈ
ਜਿਵੇਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਨੇੜੇ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਕੁਝ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਸੂਬਾ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਤਾਕਤਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਘਿਨਾਉਣੀਆਂ ਹਰਕਤਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੀ ਸੁਚੇਤ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸੁਚੇਤ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ
The injured were undergoing treatment at hospitals in the city. Punjab's Deputy Chief Minister Sukhjinder Singh Randhawa said Punjab borders with Pakistan, so possibility of external forces cannot be ruled out. Investigations are focusing on how the explosives were smuggled into the court complex despite security.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday held a meeting with state chiefs on containing a possible surge of Omicron cases ahead of the festive season as gatherings in public spaces and markets grow in size. India has recorded over 235 Omicron coronavirus cases across 16 states over the last 24 hours, more than double from last week.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday held high-level COVID-19 review meeting on containing a possible surge of Omicron cases ahead of the festive season as gatherings in public spaces and markets grow in size. India has recorded 236 Omicron coronavirus cases across 16 states over the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry said more than double from last week. Western Maharashtra state has recorded the maximum 65 cases of the Omicron variant, followed by capital New Delhi at 64. Addressing a press conference after a high-level meeting with officials over COVID-19 and its variant Omicron, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Thursday said that the state government has decided to strengthen the home isolation module since the new variant of COVID-19 causes mild infection.
इसको ध्यान में रखते हुए हमने अपनी सारी तैयारियां की हैं। पहली चीज़ तो अगर ये फैलता बहुत तेज़ी से तो हमारा वो वाला इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग होना चाहिए। तो हमने 3 लाख टेस्ट डेली करने की अपनी कैपेसिटी बनाई है कि अगर ज़रूरत पड़ेगी तो 3 लाख टेस्ट्स दिल्ली में डेली हो सकें।
Earlier, the centre, in a second advisory issued this week, urged states to impose curbs lasting for almost a fortnight should there be a risk of an outbreak. While more than half of India's adult population is fully vaccinated, hundreds of millions are still at risk. Doctors warn that if an Omicron-fueled third wave of infections hits the country, medical facilities could be overrun very quickly.
India's Foreign Secretary Vardhan Shringla conveyed to the military rulers of Myanmar during his two-day visit that democracy should be restored at the earliest, as he called on the chairman, State Administrative Council and other senior representatives in the country. He also conveyed India's desire to engage various stakeholders to end the crisis in the neighbouring country and expressed New Delhi's concern over the spillover effect of the developments across the border into Indian territories. India's Foreign Ministry said in a statement. Shringla conveyed India's continued humanitarian support for the people of Myanmar, and in the context of Myanmar's fight against the Covid-19 pandemic, he handed over 1 million doses of Made in India vaccines to the Myanmar Red Cross Society. He also exchanged views with select ambassadors in Myanmar on issues of mutual interest. He also inaugurated the India Centre in Yangon that helped promote Indian culture, including performing arts, languages and yoga. Shringla's visit is the first such high-level outreach from India after Myanmar's military deposed the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi in a coup on February 1. Moving on. Scores of members of Pakistan's Opposition Jamaat-e-Islami party recently held a protest rally in Karachi city in solidarity with the anti-CPEC Baloch rights movement in Gwadar over threats to livelihood from illegal fishing by Chinese trawlers. The protesters raised concern that the indigenous people in Balochistan are being deprived of benefits of the multi-billion-dollar CPEC project.
Scores of members of Opposition Jamaat-e-Islami party recently held a protest rally in Pakistan's Karachi city in solidarity with the ongoing rights movement by locals in Balochistan's Gwadar over threats to their livelihood from illegal fishing by Chinese trawlers and lack of basic amenities like water. The protesters raised concern that the first right on natural resources in Balochistan should be of the indigenous people, but they are being deprived of it by the Pakistani government, which has deceived them in the name of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC.
लेकिन सिंध और बलूचिस्तान दोनों में 2.5 महीने के लिए सीएनजी स्टेशन बंद कर दिए गए हैं और गैस मकामी लोगों को भी नहीं मिल रही है। कैसा अजीब तमाशा है कि जो वसाइल वहां के समंदर में मछली की सूरत में और आबी ज़खायर की सूरत में मौजूद हैं, उस पर सबसे बड़ा हक तो वहां के मकामी लोगों का है, लेकिन उनको इस हक से महरूम किया जाता है। कहते हैं कि सीपेक के नाम पर तरक्की हो रही है।
Reports suggest the month-long protests in Balochistan are part of growing discontent with China's presence at the Gwadar port, which is an integral part of CPEC. Activists have long blamed the multi-billion-dollar project has only brought death and destruction for the indigenous people instead of economic opportunities, as Pakistani forces operate with impunity in the region to ensure safe passage to Beijing.
The United States formally exempted on Wednesday US and UN officials doing permitted business with the Taliban from US sanctions to try to maintain the flow of aid to Afghanistan as it sinks deeper into a humanitarian crisis. The licenses will enable the US government, international organizations such as the United Nations and non-governmental organizations to operate in the country and offer humanitarian assistance despite sanctions.
The United States on Wednesday announced it was issuing special licenses to ensure that some international aid could flow to Afghanistan, where the economy collapsed following the Taliban takeover in August. The Treasury issued 3 general licenses aimed at easing humanitarian aid flows in Afghanistan. 2 of the licenses allow US officials and those of certain international organizations, such as the United Nations, to engage in transactions involving the Taliban or Haqqani network for official business. A 3rd license gives non-governmental organizations protection from US sanctions on the Taliban and the Haqqani network for work on certain activities, including humanitarian projects. US State Secretary Antony Blinken, in his press briefing on Wednesday, said Washington is closely watching the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan and is continuing its humanitarian support for the people of Afghanistan to help them cope with its difficult situation.
We've issued multiple now general licenses to make sure that other countries, institutions can feel free to move forward with their assistance and not be concerned about the the application or implementation of sanctions against them.
In a separate bid to address crisis, the UN Security Council passed a resolution exempting donors, aid groups and financial institutions involved in humanitarian assistance from UN asset freezes on leaders of the Taliban and associated entities. The United Nations says nearly 23 million people, about 55% of population, are facing extreme levels of hunger, with nearly 9 million at risk of famine as winter takes hold. Afghanistan's economic crisis accelerated after the Taliban seized power in August as the former Western-backed government collapsed and the last US troops withdrew. The United States and other donors cut financial assistance and more than $9 billion in Afghanistan's hard currency assets were frozen.
Indian companies are looking towards the Nepali market to expand their business as the post-COVID scenario continues to improve the economic conditions and increase developmental activities in the Himalayan nation. The exhibition is aimed at promoting Brand India and enhancing bilateral trade and investment by creating awareness of business opportunities available on both sides.
A three-day Enterprise India exhibition began on Wednesday in Nepal's capital Kathmandu, with focus on expanding the market and improving the bilateral relations between India and Nepal. More than 50 Indian companies representing multiple sectors and coming from various parts of India exhibited their products and services at the exhibition, which also witnessed enthusiastic participation from Nepali businesses and traders. As the post-COVID scenario continues to improve the economic conditions and increase development activities in the Himalayan nation, Indian companies are looking towards the Nepali market to expand their business.
Nepali market is always very good. It's a very prompt and very promising market. And for Indian product, this market is wonderful. So there is a challenges after pandemic. But I think everybody all over the world, people are learning to come out from the challenges. So Nepali market is quite well.
The exhibition particularly aims at facilitating joint ventures, technology transfer, marketing arrangements as well as people-to-people contacts between the two countries. Indian Charles d'Affaires Namgye Khampa, who inaugurated the exhibition, encouraged the organisers to explore B2B partnerships with Nepali entrepreneurs in order to strengthen commercial linkages between the two countries.
With Christmas just around the corner, markets across India are flooded with a wide array of decorative items as people have started decking up their homes with Christmas trees and lights. Marking the annual commemoration of the birth of Jesus Christ, Christmas is celebrated across the world on December 25.
Markets across parts of India are flooded with a wide array of decorative items as Christmas is just around the corner. Shops are luring people with a variety of items including Christmas trees, bells, lanterns, LED stars and miniatures of Santa Claus. Marking the annual commemoration of the birth of Jesus Christ, Christmas is celebrated across the world on December 25. Shopkeepers said they hope for good sales this time but expressed that COVID-19 seemed to have subdued the festive spirit compared to previous years.
बच्चों के लिए कुछ थोड़ा सा नया अवसर हो गया है कि नया खेलने कूदने का एक मौका हो जाता है। उसमें बच्चों को मैं दिलवाने आज लेके आया हूँ कुछ गिफ्ट और उनके लिए। तो एक इसी तरह कोरोना दूर रहे, कोरोना ना आए तो क्रिसमस की धूम इसी तरह फिर बढ़ती चलेगी।
Meanwhile, the Christian community in eastern Bhubaneswar was seen decorating a Catholic church in the city with baubles, stars, lights and bells ahead of the major festival. A priest said the celebrations will be, however, limited this time due to the pandemic.
All other years, we used to have a lot of decoration, the crib outside and a lot of preparation outwardly. But this year we are not going to have so much in such a way. But all people will in their own families, and those who come here, they will come very small group, and we are trying to help them spiritually to experience the joy of Christmas.
Considered a season of love and peace, Christmas is widely celebrated in metros and other big cities across India by singing carols, lighting candles, decorating Christmas trees, and exchanging gifts.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on southasianewsline.com. You can also visit us on facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.